The boat horn sounded again, sharp, final. Eleanor didn't move. Behind her, the ocean stretched endlessly, calm, indifferent. In front of her, the boat waited, engine humming, like a reminder of the life she understood. And somewhere in between was him. "I don't have time for this," she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. For 15 years, time had always been the deciding factor. Time was money. Time was leverage. Time was control. But now, time felt like pressure. "Miss Whitmore?" the boat operator called. She turned halfway, just enough to acknowledge. "Just a moment." Her voice was steady. Her pulse wasn't. "You're thinking too much," Ibrahim said quietly. She let out a sharp breath. "That's literally how I've built my entire life." "And is it helping you now?" No, it wasn't, and that terrified her more than anything. "I don't do impulsive," she said, turning fully to face him now. "I don't make decisions based on feelings." Ibrahim nodded slowly. "I know." "Then why are you standing there like this is even an option?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, closing that now familiar distance that always seemed to disarm her. "Because for the first time," he said, "you're not negotiating, you're choosing." That word again, choosing, as if it was simple, as if it didn't come with consequences. "If I stay," she said carefully, "what happens?" It was the kind of question she asked in boardrooms, direct, strategic, outcome-focused. But this wasn't a boardroom, and Ibrahim wasn't a deal. "I don't know," he said honestly. She blinked. "That's not an answer." "It's the only real one." Silence, thick, uncomfortable, real. "And if I leave?" she pressed. This time he didn't hesitate. "You go back to your life," he said. "You succeed. You grow. You keep building everything you've worked for." "And this?" she asked, her voice softer now. A pause, then, "You remember." That hit harder than she expected, not because it was dramatic, but because it was enough. Eleanor turned away from him, toward the boat, toward London, toward certainty. Her heels clicked softly against the wooden dock as she took a step forward. Then another. Then she stopped, again. This was ridiculous. She had closed deals worth hundreds of millions without hesitation. But this one choice had her frozen. "Why does this feel like I'm about to lose something?" she asked, barely above a whisper. Ibrahim didn't move. "Because you are." That was it. No poetry, no persuasion, just truth. Eleanor closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she let herself feel everything. The exhaustion she never admitted, the loneliness she disguised as independence, the quiet ache of a life that looked perfect but never felt full. And him, the one variable she hadn't planned for. When she opened her eyes again, she turned around. "I can't stay," The words came out steady, decisive, familiar. For a brief second, something flickered across Ibrahim's face. Not surprise, not anger, just acceptance. "I know," he said softly. And somehow, that made it worse. She stepped closer to him now, close enough to feel the warmth of his skin, close enough to remember everything she was about to walk away from. "This isn't fair," she said. "No," he agreed. "It isn't." She searched his face as if trying to memorize it. "You don't fight for things, do you?" A faint smile. "I do," he said. "Just not by holding them hostage." That almost broke her. Eleanor reached for him then. Not calculated, not controlled, just human. Her hand rested against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm beneath. For a moment, they just stood there. Two people from completely different worlds, meeting in the only place that made sense. The present. Then she leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate. It was certain. A quiet acknowledgement of something real. Something that didn't need to last forever to matter. When she pulled away, her composure was gone. Not shattered, just softened. "I'm going to regret this," she said. Ibrahim shook his head gently. "No," he replied. "You're going to remember it." That distinction stayed with her. This time, when she turned toward the boat, she didn't stop. The ride was quiet, too quiet. The island grew smaller behind her. The water stretched wider ahead. And somewhere between departure and distance, reality began to settle in. London welcomed her back the way it always did. Cold, efficient, unapologetic. Her apartment was exactly as she left it. Immaculate, silent, empty. Within 48 hours, she was back in meetings, back in control, back in her world. "Brilliant work as always, Eleanor," her colleague said during a presentation. She nodded, smiled, delivered. But something had shifted. Subtly, irreversibly. She found herself pausing, staring out of windows longer than usual, letting silence sit where noise used to be. And at night, when the city finally slowed down, her mind would drift, not to numbers, not to deals, but to him. The way he spoke, the way he listened, the way he made everything feel simpler. Weeks passed, then months, and yet he didn't fade. One evening, sitting alone in her apartment, Eleanor did something she hadn't done in years. She questioned her own life, not its success, but its meaning. Everything she had built was still there, untouched, impressive, empty. She picked up her phone, scrolled, paused. There was no number saved, no easy way back, no neat resolution, just a choice she had already made, and the quiet, persistent question that followed it. What if? Eleanor Whitmore leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, and for the first time since she left the island, she allowed herself to consider something she had spent her entire life avoiding. Not control, not certainty, but possibility. Some love stories don't end where you expect. Subscribe to see how this one unfolds.